January 15th, 2020, police responded to a scene that sounded like it was more of a GTA heist mission instead of a normal Wednesday afternoon in Jacksonville, Florida.
Girl, where's Charles? Was it Charles? They shot Charles Mcormick. He has a black mask on. He has on a skull cap. He's running across the parking lot.
I see that vehicle just pop out and it's gunning it.
Another woman testified 2 men believed to be connected to the shooting burst into her home after the crime.
Little did everyone know, the events from this day would forever change the state of Jacksonville's drill scene, one crash out incident at a time. That cool January morning started like any other for 23-year-old Charles Mcormick, who was just starting his day, pulling up to a work temp agency at a shopping center on Dames Point Plaza. He woke up, and little did he know, in the same parking lot he was arriving in, several masked men would be starting their days too. Only difference is they were starting theirs with murder on their mind at just 11 a.m. As rising Jacksonville rapper Mcormick, aka Lil Buck, got out of his car, the group of masked men swarmed and took him out in broad daylight in a firefight that just lasted seconds. Bro, I swear, being a Jacksonville drill artist is damn near like a suicide mission. Nobody makes it out with their freedom or their lives. We know a lot of them are just products of their environment. However, there's one dude from Jacksonville, a man known for cashing hats like a lid store, a man who's been seen laughing and giggling in court for his murder charge, a man who I would consider a legit demon, a dude named after cheese after all, Ksoo, the infamous shooter known for taking out Jacksonville legend Julio Fulio's brother, and Lil Buck, when news just broke that he has officially been convicted for first-degree murder
based on the verdict of the jury finding you guilty.
And it's honestly one of the most insane trials I've ever seen. From laughing in the courtroom, to his dad deciding to testify against him, to one of the people who did the crime with him and in the getaway car testifying and literally receiving nothing in return, to the level of disrespect that this dude has, straight posting stuff like going to the nail salon after murdering someone. We're truly in an era of serial killers turned rappers, and it seems like Ksoo is a Charles Manson of the rap game. While his freedom is currently cooked, there's no secret that the NHG top shotter made waves in the city of Jacksonville in his short career. So today, we gotta talk about the bodies that made Ksoo Jacksonville's top shooter famous, and apparently got him poised to spend the rest of his life behind bars. We're gonna get into it right now, but before we do, gang, I'm gonna need you to do something for me. Like, comment, subscribe. We're on the road to 30k subscribers. We are literally less than 3k away, man. By the end of this video, we can honestly get that. If everyone who watches it, make sure you subscribe and then hit that notification bell so whenever I post, y'all tapped in. Check out that merch at staysafeworld.com, link in the description, man. So let's get into this for chapter 1. Hakeem Robinson, aka part-time drill artist, full-time serial killer, was pretty much born to fail, being born into a family of shooters and gangbangers. The wild thing is, his family's involvement in the streets directly played a role into the shooting that got him a life sentence. Before the death of Charles Mcormick, before the death of Bibby, before linking up with Young and Ace, before Queso was even born, the Robinson family in Jacksonville is known to being the original crash outs. The son of an OG named Blue, who was a well-documented shooter and also a parent federal informant, and the brother of a well-respected shooter turned rapper Boss Goon, aka Willie Anderson. Queso was surrounded by shooters from a young age, with many of his family members being associated with an infamous gang called Flag Street. Queso would jump off the porch and quickly jump into the Jacksonville rap scene with all the main artists that we know today, like Fulio, Young and Ace, all of them. It's crazy because there's even photos of Queso with Fulio in them back in the day. However, at a certain point, there was a split in the scene, and the two sides ended up starting a war in Jacksonville that we see today between ATK and NHG, who Queso was affiliated with, and members of 6 Block, where Fulio was from. However, things got very real and personal for Queso for the first time when his brother, Boss Goon, and father would be targeted in a surprise ambush that would directly link to the murder that he got sentenced for today. By 2019, Queso's brother, Boss Goon, and his father, Blue, had recently gotten out of lengthy prison terms and were looking to change their lives around and focus on making music to do it. So in January of 2019, Boss Goon had a performance at a local strip club to try to build his career up in the city. He would pull up with his brother, Crazy K, and their dad, Blue. Everything went well during the performance, and they all decided to hop into their truck and leave. That's when a car would pull up alongside them and air it out.
First at 5, it's the news we hate telling you about, but it's a reality. Another violent night in Jacksonville. A total of 6 people shot.
One person has died and 5 others were injured after gunfire erupted about 2 this morning. Now, this incident began at the Paradise Gentlemen's Club on Bay Meadows Road, and it ended 6 miles away on Spring Park Road and Emerson Street in the Inglewood area of Jacksonville. Now, we just got some new surveillance video. Take a look with us here. In the video, you can see a silver SUV driving along Emerson. Seconds later, 2 other cars follow, and at the bottom of your screen there, you'll be able to see a group of people. They turn their heads in that parking lot as witnesses say the gunfire just broke out.
And the victims all taken to Memorial Hospital. That shooting happening on Emerson Street just east of 95. Cam Eppinger with the tell of the tape.
Yeah, that shooting happening just after 2 o'clock this morning right here along Emerson Road in the Spring Park area, right in front of this Ducky's Touchless Car Wash business, and you can still see some of the orange evidence markers still left here in the street. Now, police say 6 people were shot while riding in a Chevy Tahoe SUV, and after the shooting, the driver of the SUV drove straight to the hospital. 1 person died following the shooting. Police say that victim was about 25 years old. The 5 other victims' injuries ranged from minor to life-threatening. Shortly after the shooting, an SUV that matches the description of the victim's SUV could be seen on surveillance video.
Blue would get several times hit in the back. Crazy K would get hit in the head twice but somehow survive. But Boss Goon, aka Willie Anderson, would get shot multiple times and die on the scene, unfortunately. The car would speed off and no leads on who did it would ever come up. This shooting profoundly affected the family, with Ksoo dad Blue apparently putting money on the head of whoever did the murder, but at the same time would go on the news and ask for justice.
He wants people to know he's not retaliating for the murder of his son.
I want justice for my son. I'm not sending nobody out there. They got quote unquote, I'm supposed to have hits.
Which is a crazy juxtaposition. While at the time there wasn't much evidence of what exactly happened, many chalked it up to the ongoing beef with 6 Block. You see, during the trial, they would discover a diss track made by Charles Mcormick, aka Lil Buck, who was dissing their fallen members, Boss Goon, who was also a 6 Block member. In the actual trial, one of the people who helped Ksoo in the shooting, who also testified against him, would actually say that it was this diss track that would make him and Ksoo want to crash out. Obviously, the song was so ass, it sucks. It's not even worth getting demonetized over, but if you want to go check it out, you can watch the whole trial where they play it. You can make an entire 45-minute video on the war with 6 Block, and you have that 10 times over on this channel leading up to Fulio's death, which you can go check out. But from this point on, it pretty much became a personal beef for Ksoo, and we're going to talk about this timeline. Many believe that that previous situation and not finding out who was exactly responsible for the shooting made Ksoo's dad tell Ksoo to slide on 6 Block, try to find anyone that they could, which ended up being Lil Buck. The first of 2 murders the pair of ATK Scotty and Ksoo would be accused of, which we'll get into in chapter 2. Following that diss track that Lil Buck would drop, members from Ksoo's side were trying to lurk and find him and take him out. Ksoo's friend, who testified against him, Dominic Barner, would go into detail saying that they would watch Lil Buck's Instagram day in and day out and try to locate where he was. At the same time, he would look up his whole name and then search for old court paperwork to locate his address. He found the address eventually on Core, and then he hit up Ksoo and ATK Scotty and would start lurking at his apartment complex, waiting for him to come outside. It's honestly a crazy operation how they were stalking dude day in and day out, waiting for him to be home. But finally, on January 15th, 2020, they would finally catch up to him. The driver, Dominic Barner, would go into extreme detail, pretty much stating that on the morning, he and Ksoo and ATK Scotty, aka Leroy Whitaker, would arrive at his house at around 5 a.m. and case his scene. Apparently, they planned on ambushing him as soon as they saw him post on social media. However, they were distracted when he eventually did come out of his house, so they decided to follow him to a shopping center close by. Charles Mcormick had no idea that these men were following him in 2 separate cars as he went to Dames Point Plaza on Merrill Road to go to an interview at a temp job agency. However, he would never make it home as Ksoo and Scotty would run out of the getaway car, chase him, gun him down, and get back in.
A homicide. Witnesses say that the shooting happened in a shopping center along Merrill Road just west of Townsend Boulevard. Let's go straight out to our Nick Perot. He has the very latest right now.
Katie, good afternoon. Yes, Jacksonville Fire Rescue confirmed one man is dead. We can tell you we're in the Dames Point Shopping Plaza. Off in the distance here, that Express Employment, we can tell you we've got one bullet hole in that shop. Again, looking to learn more here from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
This was all done in broad daylight, so they would have to skirt off when a police officer would see them and follow them. When all three of them jumped out of the car, they left guns and tons of evidence in the car right after, which pretty much left them cooked from the jump. They would jump into a woman's house, hold her hostage until Ksoo's father, Abdul Robinson, who also testified against him, will pick them up and drive them away from the scene. Bro, imagine testifying against your own son, who you apparently told to slide for you, who's literally also like being an accomplice in the situation. Honestly, it's something that I have never really thought is something that's possible, but you know, you learn something new that is possible in the Jacksonville scene every single time there's one of these incidents that go on. The war in Jacksonville has literally cost so many lives, both to violence or the criminal justice system. However, within that year, that would not be the only murder that Ksoo would get accused of, because he would get accused for an earlier murder when he was questioned and arrested for the Lil Buck situation because of the amount of evidence and surveillance photos. But there's many debating whether in fact he did do another murder several months earlier, which we'll get into in the next chapter, the death of Bibby. As the war in Jacksonville had continued, there was much speculation that the killing of Fulio's little brother Bibby was also the work of Ksoo. As he was in the custody for the murder of Lil Buck, he would be charged for the murder of a 16-year-old in the Hilltop Gardens apartment.
We'll be out there doing some paperwork. You do have a warrant for your arrest.
We have a warrant for your arrest for murder today.
What?
Yes.
For what?
You want your lawyer, so I can't tell you no more, but you'll be in trouble.
As with many people involved in the ATK 6 block beef, there was much back and forth online between many in these groups. Just days before his murder, Bibby would be seen dissing Ksoo in his Facebook comments on a post, and it was one of the many examples of dissing that we see throughout this whole situation. However, it would catch up to the 16-year-old Adrian Garner Jr. on the day of February 26, 2019.
Fire erupts inside a Northwest Side apartment complex. It leaves this 16-year-old dead. Neighbors say that the shooting sounded like a war zone.
60 to 70 rounds had to be dropped in the course of maybe 15 seconds.
Sky 4 captured the large crime scene outside the Hilltop Village apartment complex off 45th Street just before 3 this afternoon. For several hours, the backside of the apartment complex was taped off as investigators collected shell casings and other evidence.
And while police have not released the victim's name, sources tell us it's Adrian Gaynor Jr. Tonight, News 4 Jax reporter Eric Avanier was there earlier and has the latest.
Family members have identified the 16-year-old boy who was shot and killed inside the parking lot of Hilltop apartment complex as Adrian Gaynor Jr. They say he was employed at a local McDonald's, attended school regularly, and was beginning to get on the right track. The person or people responsible for his death has not been captured, which is why we are not identifying neighbors who say they heard what sounded like a plethora of weapons being fired.
At around 3 o'clock, he would be last seen posted up at the gazebo in the Hilltop Apartments neighborhood when two masked assailants would pull up on him and start shooting like crazy. Neighbors would describe it sounding like Iraq outside. Police would respond just after 3 p.m. to reports of a shooting at the Hilltop's apartment complex and find the body of Adrian Gardner in the main parking lot in the complex. There's been much discourse over who actually caught this body though, but police would apparently know for sure that it was Ksoo who committed this murder again with ATK Scotty. However, Fulio would be on record on IG Live saying that he doesn't believe that Ksoo actually committed this murder, which made people think that it was actually ATK Scotty work who was behind his death. So now we got to get into the aftermath. So as you probably know, Ksoo was officially convicted for first-degree murder. ATK Scotty was convicted for first-degree murder and burglary. They haven't been sentenced yet, but if we were to guess, they're probably getting life because of a whole litany of crimes. He got testified against by his homie who was in the situation with him in the promise of possibly getting a reduced sentence of like 20 years when he was apparently supposed to get 40. Then his father testified against him. There was surveillance that they basically used to sort of like match him to the crimes with a whole DNA height database type situation, man. It honestly has him super cooked. He actually spoke out after the incident saying that he had an all-white jury and they basically convicted him because of racism, and his lawyers did an all-star job. You know, Young and Ace said that both of them are coming home soon, man. You know, it's kind of cooked. The only way they're coming home is some appeal, but I don't really see them coming home. There's so much evidence against them, with several people testifying who were literally there after and during the incident, man. It's a crazy situation, and it kind of just shows that, like, there was a certain point where these dudes were, you know, getting clout off of these type of incidences, or just like inferring that they had something to do with it, and it eventually caught up to them. And it just shows everyone from the original Jacksonville, like, scene, besides Young and Ace, even though he almost died, but everyone else is pretty much gone. Fulio is long gone. All these dudes are